Alright, so in this video we'll be covering methods and how you can use them in your code and what they are, how to code them. Alright, so a method is basically a block of code that only runs or only executed when you call it in your code. And these methods can support parameters, and they they are used to perform certain actions, especially ones that are repeated often in a program or in your code. So how you create a method. So let's start with let's find out how old someone is, or what the age or how old they are, and we're gonna use a method to calculate their age. So public. So how you make it is you basically make sure you're out of the main kind of method and just create. So you want to start with public or private, but doesn't really matter for this. And basically void, what void means that is there's gonna be no kind of return. If we put an int, this method is gonna return an integer, and you can use doubles, basically any data type, a boolean, so it'll return true or false. But when you put void, that just means that this method won't return anything. So we can name the method. So let's call it calculate age. So basically, let's make an integer and let's call it the age, which is gonna equal the current year. And we haven't defined that variable yet, but we will in a second. And then the year born. Alright, so the current year, just for the sake of this video, we could also put it in a different method. So we can basically just call that method and it will give us the current year. So if we have so in this case we're gonna return an int because we want the value of the current year. We want the current year, so we're gonna return an integer and call it current year. Oops, current year. And so you see how alright, next so we're just gonna have int current year, or year, let's just call it year, equals 2019, and then return year. Alright, so then this, to call a method, we just type in the name of the method, and then it should automatically come up. Alright, so for the year born, this is going to be a variable that will basically change depending on what the input of the person is. So to have a variable that can constantly change, we're gonna introduce something that is called a parameter. And what a parameter is basically, so when you call a method, inside these kind of parentheses, you're gonna put values, which will fill in the place of the variable. So let's say someone was born in 2001, right? So you would basically let's complete this. So then age equals plus age. So if we go back to the main class or main method, we can calculate the age based on the year that that the person was born in. So if we say 2001, this 2001 will basically replace this kind of variable. So just picture 2001 instead of the year born variable. So this would basically be 2019 minus 2011, and it'll give us the age of that person. So if we run it, it should give us, yep, this person is 18 years old. And we put 2005. This person is 14. Right, so yeah, so methods are extremely useful when you are kind of repeating the same code over and over and over again in your programs or code. And yeah, they just kind of eliminate repeated code, and they just make your code look a lot cleaner and more efficient. So yeah, that is basically it. Oh, and you basically can have as many, parameters as you'd like, year, etc. And you can have any kind of it's true. I'm just writing random parameters. We can use any kind of data type. You can also use a string. I'll call it value or something. There's countless amount of you can use any data type and basically just write a name for it, but separate them by commas or with commas. And when you call, as I said before, when you call the method has to be in the main. So calculate age, and you can call it multiple times. So if you're born in 2003, you'll be 16, etc. And if you have more kind of parameters, let's see, graduation year, then it'll ask. So if we calculate age, now it'll ask for the year that the person was born and the graduation year or something like that, right? 2033, 2000, etc. So these methods are very useful. As I said before, they just make your code more efficient and kind of cleaner looking. And yeah, that is basically how you use methods in Java. Yeah, see you next time.